In this video, we are going to learn something new, that is React memo concept. Before jump into React memo, what's a React memo is, I would like to share something with you. What would, if I would say that you can skip a render of particular component for particular component that is a nested child component, maybe a child component that parent child pet child, and if you want to skip a child render, and how you can that. Okay, so yeah, it's possible in the React. We will going to use that React memo, and it is quite clear and simple. So this concept just take few seconds, and it's just basically we can say memo is just a caching of the components. So let's understand this component by the code example. So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So my name is Kunal again. You're watching Tech with Kunal. So this is a video based on React memo. So you are already watching my screen. So let's understand the concept. So this is basically just a simple React code, and in all application already running, as you can see in the browser. That if I refresh and just a demo app, you click button 0 times and click me here. The update list my items. All this stuff is here. Just a simple. This is a loop. And what's the structure of our project? In AppJS, we have a two states of basically a to-do item and buttons of to update the account and update the to-dos. Basically, we are replicating to-dos again and again. And there is a component to-do that is rendering, and we can see it's very simple component, just mapping all into a paragraph and returning. Okay, and we just put it into console and to-do component rendering, and for the main component rendering. Okay, cool. And now basically, if I would say that if any change in the general concept of the if any change in the state of these two, or basically the parent component, that is app component, it automatically re-renders this to-do component. If I would say that we can skip this render, because for example, for a case, or for example, if this component is recomputing too much things in it, like for now it's not computing anything here, but for example, if it's computing too much things, or it's on mounted, there are 2 or 3 backend API calls that are not necessary, because this component is not changed, even a single line of thing will not getting a change. And so why we need to re-enter this component? But our React structures being like this, that if the parent component change, we have to re-enter child component. So basically you have two solutions. You can make such a structure that will break down in such a component as if the child component, you can do one thing. You can put this state in this component to do, and make another component for count, that is another child component. Both components can mount here. If the change in child statement, then there is no effect to this. But in some scenarios, we have a case like we have to force ourselves. We have to put some states in parent component and nested going to child components. So if there is two components of one parent component, like these two, and if one state will change, it automatically re-renders and triggers the re-render for another component also. Okay. So for example, here's example. You can see that on my screen, that if I click me, you can see the main component is rendering and to-do component also render, because to-do component is a child component, main components automatically trigger re-render for itself. Okay. So the concept I'm going to told you, it will use in every type of application. Okay. But depending upon your use of application, that if it's a very I would say if it's a heavy computational power component, then I will prefer to use this. Okay. So you can see that if I click and you automatically re-render this component, but there is no a single state of change of component. But if I click on update list, you can see that time we will make sense to re-render this component. And for button click, it's already part of parent component that will automatically re-render. Okay. Now let's understand. It will just take a single line of code, and boom, you will get a application performance. Use React memo, and it's a higher order components, so you need to wrap this component that you have written into memo. That's all. Okay, cool. Now refresh this whole page. That's all you need, just these 2 lines of code. Okay, so whenever you click on please carefully watch my console, that's important, and my buttons. If I click me, you can see that's only main component rendering. To-do component is not going to render more, because we have cached the components, and memo just works on one thing. That's memo just compare the props we are getting right now. Okay, so it's compare the props. If the to-do's props will change, then this makes sense to be re-render this component, otherwise no. Okay, so if I click me, then there is the state update of count, and there is a parent state update, then will re-render the whole component. But to do is a child component of that component. It will not re-render because we use memo. So memo basically cache that component and compare the props of previous component and new components. If their props are same, then that does not make sense to be re-render the component. If I update the list, then makes sense to be re-render the component, and the update list automatically called main component to re-render because the state is present in parent component. Okay, I think you will get an idea most of the why to use, to when to use, how to use. How to use very clear. When to use, basically when you have don't want to re-render the component that is so expensive to re-render. And this is just a simple example for you guys. And then when if I would give you example, like this is an interview question also. And then one thing more, don't tell anyone that I'm telling you. Whenever you are using this memo hook, be sure that this component is so heavy and so re-rendering equals that will be. Otherwise, this is not make sense to use every time memo. This is example of equals TypeScript. You are using TypeScript with any. Okay, hope so I am able to clear your idea about the memo hook and when to use and how to use. So again I'm saying again and again, when to use is just when you have a component is so much heavy, you do not want to re-render component, and if the component makes sense to re-render because it will not affect the performance, it will not taking any calls, it will not render too much. Like if a single line of code to be re-rendered, like for example, if for idea of props to do if just my items to be re-rendered, there is nothing in like inside this, makes sense to re-render the component. Okay, because why you need to memo the cache the component, because basically memo cache means caching the components automatically take application memory storage also. Okay, hope so, meet you in another video. Take care, bye bye.